I've partnered up with Quikrete Concrete to bring you some DIY concrete project ideas. I'm going to kick it off with these DIY nesting tables. I'm not sure about you, but I am a bit of a furniture hoarder. So I had this bar stool that I bought for like $3 at Goodwill that ended up breaking on me first time I sat on it. And then I had this other chair that ended up only having 3 legs. So I decided to use these as the legs for my nesting tables versus purchasing something. I ripped those legs off of the bar stool and the chair and decided to keep the wood if I could for future projects. I will be creating 3 tables that rest inside one another. The first, I'm using a dowel for the legs, so I cut 3 of them down to 23 inches. The next, I'm going to be cutting down to about 19 inches, and then my shortest are going to have 15-inch legs. Little side tip, I like to actually make an arrow on the side I need to be cutting. If I place it on the opposite side of that line, it means I need to be cutting up to the line, not on the line, to keep all my measurements the same. Once I cut those down on my miter saw, I went ahead and went in with an 80 grit sandpaper on my orbital sander and just worked my way to a 120 for all of the legs because I wanted to give them new life with some stain. It is always to each its own with colors, but I just wanted to brighten up the original colors of the legs. So I went ahead and did so, which I really liked all of them together. I almost gave a little bit of an ombre effect, and I hope it translates into the tables as well. I didn't want to go in blind and just kind of shove the legs into the concrete without really knowing where to stop. So I went ahead and made an inch guideline like my bar stool legs already had available onto the other legs as well. So I knew where to push the legs into and stop, and hopefully that will keep them all even so the tables don't wobble. Now that our legs are all done, we're moving on to the actual tabletop portion, which I will be using Quikrete's mortar mix, which I have used previously, and all my other concrete DIYs, actually I've linked them for you and made a playlist that is down below for you. You just want to mix all the concrete enough for 3 tables in one bucket, and then to actually have the guideline for the table, I made a 2-inch mark with a Sharpie along the inside of the bucket to know where to stop once I start to pour. I poured the concrete into the other bucket up to my guideline and kind of shook and stirred as I went to ensure that I wasn't going past that 2-inch mark. I then remembered you need to go in with an orbital sander or some kind of vibration. You can hit the sides, but you want to go ahead and tap them until all the air bubbles are out. I stuck the legs in up until that 1-inch guideline that we made earlier, and then I repeated the process to the other tables. You can get super crazy and tape off a triangle and ensure it's absolutely perfect, but I didn't. I just eyeballed it as I went because I like the roughness of DIY concrete projects, but again, it's all personal preference. Before the tables set to dry, I went ahead and went in with my measuring tape and ensured that the legs that were sticking out were all equal measurements, because in my brain, I'm hoping that will equate to the tables not wobbling or being uneven. I let these guys dry overnight, and the next day just carefully shimmied them out of the buckets. One thing I did not like was that the buckets had divots and grooves, so that translated to the top of these side tables, and to be honest, I should have just left it, but I thought that I could fix it by wet sanding it down. Actually didn't do much, to be honest, and it took me like doing all of them to realize that I shouldn't have done that. But the one thing that did come in handy with this sander is just cleaning up the edges and making them nice and smooth and not so rough. Like I said, watching this back, it's actually kind of hurting me because I wish I just stopped and didn't do anything to these tables and end up styling the way I did in the end. But I thought I could add concrete to the top and like buff that out. But I obviously halfway through was like, that's not going to work. So I scooped it off completely. Just such a waste of time, but that's okay. You can learn from my mistakes. I don't recommend this next step, but I decided to take a 320 grit sandpaper and try to buff the concrete back to being smooth, and it helped, but just I hope you avoid avoid all of the things that I just showed you and get a smooth bucket in the first place to put these in. I did hide my mistakes in the middle with some decor pieces that I wish I didn't have to add, but you know, fake it till you make it, right? You are getting a little sneak peek at my office refresh, but I really do love these tables as an option because they're super versatile. You can make the tabletops larger, smaller, taller, shorter. They're just customizable to a T for your needs, which is so great. And technically it's only like 3 steps: mixing the concrete, pouring it, and sticking the dowels of your size into it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this first Quikrete project. Thank you so much to my Quikrete family for sponsoring today's video. One thing that I want to show you guys is obviously I didn't use that entire bag of Quikrete, so I put it into a bucket. I hot glued the label of what it is to the top of that bucket for easy storage and easy access. You want to make sure it's in a working environment temperature, not too hot, not too cold. I think the best thing about concrete DIYs is that you buy a bag of this Quikrete mortar mix for about $5. It's a 60-pound bag and I haven't even used a quarter of it. So I want to see how many projects I can get out of one bag. Stay tuned. I'll catch you Sunday with another DIY.